what's happening objectively is the business is limiting its growth, which limits the amount of money for the founder, which limits the amount of people that you can help. And it's bending and contorting itself so that it is able to give the people who are paying the business the least amount of money, who are not converting into case studies, who do not give you testimonials, who do not engage in the community, and who do not send you referrals so that you can give them more one-on-one support in Slack. So, Alex, how would you define an objection?
The reason that somebody emotionally thinks why they shouldn't do something.
Okay. Zach, how would you define an objection?
A barrier to taking action.
Okay. John, how would you define it?
It's anything that's in direct opposition to something you want to do.
Okay. Perfect. So, and when people give objections on sales calls, how do we usually regard the objection? Is it something that's taken legitimately, or do people have different responses to that?
I mean, my response is like, bring it on. What other objections can you give me?
What's another word that people use to define objections?
Smoke
Obstacles.
screen.
Smokescreen, exactly. And what is it? What is a smokescreen?
Something that
Fugazi, it's a
deceives
fugazi,
you.
it's a
It's not real,
fairy dust.
right?
Yeah.
So there's this idea in sales that an objection, at least the first expression of it, is not actually real. It's something that people are saying to avoid the thing that they actually think or feel or want to say, um, in relation to the decision to close. Now, I'll tell you how this comes up, right? So one of my clients, he's also a fitness coach. He is doing everything one-on-one through WhatsApp. And so, there's basically unlimited DM support. There's unlimited, not unlimited one-on-one support in regards to the calls, but like they can call whenever and they're going to receive support. And, I told him essentially all the things that we'll talk about in just a second that need to happen. And what we're going to talk about is what needs to happen in order to scale. And then the next thing from there is how do we do that in order to make it worth it for them to do those things? Because what needs to happen is objective. That's unchanging. It's very black and white. It's very mathematical. The challenge typically for people is how do we do these things while still maintaining the quality? Obvious stuff is like less reliance on one-on-one time, more emphasis on the community, the group calls, the course, etc. It's obvious, right? So, but the real challenge there in the skill is making that stuff actually worth it for them to do it. And of course, we all operate from this first principle. If it was worth it for them to do it, they would, right? So that's the guiding North Star of everything. So I told him, hey, we're gonna have to change some things here if you want this to actually scale, because you got no time left. And unless you are comfortable with making 30 to 50K a month, this is where things end. This is the ceiling of the path that you're on right now. And so the response to me was, okay. And he was like, okay, well, how do we do that? Well, I was like, well, first, like, have you talked to your clients about anything about their experience in the program? Have you gotten any feedback from them? Like, what's their perception of things? So I want to start there. And he said, yeah, they don't want to do group calls and they don't want to connect with anyone in the community. And then so you see there's already a reaction to that, right? And it's like, okay, well, first of all, how do you know? Because now I'm like, how did this even come up in the conversation? What was the line of questioning? Was this a leading question? Are you assuming this? Did this actually get said? Because it's kind of rare that people will say that directly. What you'll get it from like coaches that have been in coaching programs and stuff. They're like, I don't want another group program. And what that means is like, they don't want to get on useless Q&A calls. That's what they're really saying when they say that. Which fair enough. I don't want to either, and I don't. And I'm sure you guys usually don't do that either. At least at this point. If they were useful, I'm sure you would show up, at least when you can. So it started to hit me as we were having this conversation that is an objection. There is nothing objectively true or inherently real about the idea that clients won't get on group calls and that they won't engage in the community. The question is, how do we make it worth it for them to do so? So that was example one. Now here's example two, which is a little bit more extreme. So the other client, pretty much standard setup that you'd imagine: course, coaching, community, Slack, Kajabi, etc. Right? You guys already know what this is like, right? So where's all the support coming from? So there's multiple group calls. There is kind of unlimited one-on-one calls, and the key kicker here is that there's unlimited one-on-one support in Slack. And the thing on the sales calls that was perceived to be key thing, perceived to be the thing that's closing the deals, is the one-on-one support in Slack, the unlimited one-on-one support. That's what people want. That's what I'm being told, right? And the fear that's kept this from getting changed over the whole course of the last year and a half is that if that's removed from the offer, then the money's going to go down. Then we're going to get into some real problems, and this whole negative cascade happens from there, right? Well, there was a real life circumstance that arose that made it impossible for the client success manager to be able to deliver that. Physically impossible. And such to the point where they actually won't even be able to be a CSM at all, later in the year. And so there's now a very real, there's the path kind of splits from here, right? It's well, we're now forced to make some type of change. We can either keep the system and the infrastructure the same, and we get another CSM to hopefully replicate the value that someone who's been with the company for 3 or 4 years can do. Do you guys think that's a likely possibility that happens? No, it's close to impossible. That's not going to happen. We can hope for that. And if it is going to happen, you're going to have to pay them a shit ton of money, typically. And they will come with their own baggage, and their style is going to be different. So no matter what, there's going to be a perception from the clients that something's changed. And largely, change is perceived through a lens of fear. Generally speaking, people just don't like change, right? And there's a lot of reasons as to why, but there's going to be some type of negative perception associated with it. The other option is to change the system, because again, and also here's the key thing too, right? They're capped. So the cap is at 100K a month. And bringing on a CSM, this has come up a lot in our conversations as well. What is the problem that we're actually solving here? What is the purpose of scaling the client success system? It's to make more money. So does getting another CSM to replace this CSM make more money? No, it keeps everything the same. So why the are we going to do that if the whole reason for us doing all this in the first place is to make more money? Either on the front end or the back end, doesn't matter. We just want to make more money. And this idea here too, which has been coming up for me over the past years, this idea of unification, this kind of holistic view of the business as one thing. And so what I realized is that, again, this is just another objection. You're telling me that your clients, for whatever reason, won't engage in the Slack channel and they won't get on the group calls because they need the one-on-one support in Slack. That sounds like an objection to me. But for some reason, I say kind of in general, are willing to perceive sales objections in the light that they are not real, and we're willing to overcome those. But when objections happen on the client success side, it's not treated in the same light. We become essentially, strong language, but slaves to our clients' desires. And now here's why this is a problem. And you guys have heard me say this a million times. I'll say it again. They're coming to us because they have no idea on what they're supposed to do. They fucked everything up. If they were going to do it on their own, they would have already. So they're coming to us to help guide them through this process and to lead the way to success. Why are they dictating what that is supposed to look like? Why are we going to bend our business to someone who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing? They literally paid us to do this for them, and we're going to have them tell us what this is going to look like. You're coming to us to help do this with you, so we're going to do this our way. which actually works. Client success objections are just sales objections. For some reason, we overcome them on the sales side, but we don't overcome them on the client success side. So this is a perception that I'm giving everyone here, and I think the perception leads to the next step, which is to give everyone permission to do what you know needs to get done to make the program more scalable. Because ultimately, this is actually a really interesting thing on a tactical level, right? Now and again, of course, discovery. We know this. What gets people to what eliminates objections, at least from happening in the first place, as much as we can? It's the discovery process because we're actively diagnosing what's actually going on. They can feel and understand that we're receiving that information. They start to feel like, oh, this person actually gets it. They're going to support me. And just by the mere act of asking the question, the fear of you not being able to meet that need is largely overcome. And then if there's anything that's, of course, straggling from there, then you can have kind of a logical conversation on what solves that problem, right? Which isn't a real objection. It's kind of just like we're handling logistics at that point. So we're going to apply the same lens to the objection of not wanting to engage in the community. Now, here's where it's interesting in this particular program. This program teaches people how to make content and to boost reels and to get more clients on Instagram, just like every other coaching program. The coach is coaches in the front end, right? It's all the same stuff. There's no secret sauce whatsoever. It's all the same. Some of them get great results, some of them don't. Doesn't matter. It's all about actually, I'll save what actually is the mechanism in a moment, but we discover why is this an objection? What is the actual issue? And in this program, they're afraid to be seen and we know this because we ask them like, why don't you want to engage in the community? Oh, I don't want to like share. I don't want to say, I just don't want to be vulnerable to this extent in front of people. Maybe that's not the language, but they don't want to be seen, right? Like they don't want people to know what their problems are. They feel embarrassed about that. That's a good thing as well, John. Their status is decreased in the community if they believe their status is decreased if they share their shortcomings, essentially. Now, most of the time, in these kinds of programs, again, worked with many of them, the content and the ads, it's all the same stuff. The reason why they're not getting the results is because they're just largely not doing it. Now, what's the main reason why people don't make content? It's because they're afraid of being seen. That's usually what it comes down to. And so isn't it funny how the exact thing that's keeping them from this change that needs to happen that will allow the business to scale, and the exact reason why the client isn't complying with that is the same reason why they needed to join the program in the first place. Is that not proof in and of itself that we can't be dictated by their bullshit, because their bullshit is the exact reason why they joined? And if it's not going to if it's showing up and this is another kind of principle that comes up here, if it's showing up in one area, it's showing up in every area. And so if it's showing up on the sales side, it's gonna show up on the client success side. So that's one thing to note, which I just found to be interesting, is that, just to say it again, the exact reason why they joined the program in the first place is the exact reason why they're not getting results on the client success side, and we're bending to that. Why? It just doesn't make any sense, right? And so here's what's really interesting. That's one piece of evidence, right? Now here's the second piece of evidence, which makes this even crazier. So of course we're, having a conversation with the CSM. She's fucking awesome, by the way. And so she's just like, it's been a year and a half that this relationship has developed. Tells me the truth. How much do you guys want to bet? Of course, we're going to use the HVC matrix. We're going to look at through the lens of the highest value clients. Who do you think the black hole clients are? Who do you think the black hole clients are?
The ones who have the same.
It's the ones who get the most one-on-one support in Slack. So what's happening objectively is the business is limiting its growth, which limits the amount of money for the founder, which limits the amount of people that you can help. And it's bending and contorting itself so that it is able to give the people who are paying the business the least amount of money, who are not converting into case studies, who do not give you testimonials, who do not engage in the community, and who do not send you referrals so that you can give them more one-on-one support in Slack. That sounds like a good idea, right? But for some reason, it's not perceived this way. Like it's not like for some reason we think that we owe people. We the what's actually going on, I think from a, and of course, all this is being said not from a place of judgment. We're looking at this like mechanically. What I believe is happening to a certain degree is that we believe, I say again, we collectively, that we owe the clients who joined the program for thousands of dollars to be saved from the discomfort of change. There's this belief that's nested into these actions that the client is not allowed to experience discomfort or suffering or the things that will happen in any transformation. That it's apparently like our job to prevent the difficulty of that, and which it's not. Our job is to get them to actually fucking do it this time. Our job is to get them to confront the thing. Of course, we can make it more efficient. We can make it more certain. We can maximize the chance of success as much as possible. But what we're not going to do is make lifting weights any less heavier than they're going to be. We're not going to make the discomfort of waking up at the right time in the morning and going to sleep at the right time at night any harder than it's actually going to be. We're not going to make the pain of vulnerably expressing yourself online to be exposed by the whole world any more difficult than it's going to be. That's going to be there no matter what. And I think the consequences of this are so extreme and so limiting that, yeah, this is just something that's come to mind. I want people to be aware of this idea that we are collectively, from what I can tell, based on all of my clients to certain degrees, John probably the least of which, because this is actually a really interesting to note as well. You can see in John's mechanism, this stuff is actually already covered. Like they're not allowed to not adhere to the program in the way that the framing of the program is sold and also onboarded. And so we can get into actually a tactical discussion of this, right? How do we solve this? It all comes back to onboarding. Of course, the sales call is very important in the way that you close them. You set the frame of how this is going to go so they have the right expectations for what they just bought. But the bridge between that sales call to the onboarding is super key. We got to get them to like get onto the other side. And once they get onto the other side, now we tell them, this is how this is going to go. This is what this program is going to be like. If you want to succeed, you are going to do this stuff. If you don't, that's fine. But this is what it's going to look like for you. There's no refunds either. These are the rules. And those rules need to be aligned with the things that allow the business to scale on the client success side. If you want a done for you client success system that lets you keep scaling your front end without breaking your business and generate results, referrals, and back end sales on autopilot, then click the link down below and let's make it happen.